Hi, it's Tracy from Two Rocks Tarot, and today I'm going to be doing a VR. I haven't done a VR in God knows how long, and I saw this one from Lisa at Supportive Tarot, who I'll put a link down in the description box. And she's got a hashtag going tarot facts and questions, and I thought this would be something fun to do. I just haven't done one for so long. So let's get to it because there's quite a bit on there. So the first one is deck preferences. So there's a few questions under deck preferences, buying and backing decks, your reading style and reading for clients. So the first question is, what are your thoughts on illustrated minors versus pips? And I'm reading it as if you're wondering why I'm drifting over to the side. So I quite like, when I first started reading the tarot, I only ever knew of illustrated minors. I didn't know that you could actually get pip decks until quite a few years down the track actually. And because I'm a pictorial reader, I do prefer illustrated decks, but however, saying that, I don't mind pip decks either, because my reading, your reading styles change over the years, and of course this, probably the best pip deck that I've got is Alchemy 1977 England Tarot, and I'll just get a few cards out. So this is what the back of this particular deck looks like. So it's all skulls. And that is the Pentacles, so that's actually what the minor pip deck that I've got. I'll just show you some of this is the High Priestess. So it's a bit hard to pick out because it's very, very small cards. This is the pip for the Wands with beautiful black roses. And I'll see if I can get, I love the two, look at that, isn't that just gorgeous? So even though these are pip decks, I still see images in the pips, because all those of you who follow my channel know that I do crystal scrying. So when I actually scry my crystals, I see images all the time, and they sort of morph into different shapes and things like that. And the same thing happens to me when I actually read pip decks. So the longer I look at a pip, the more the images change. Even something as simple like that, I'll see something in that. So that's the cups. I'm just trying to give you show you all of the pips in this deck. I should have had that ready, shouldn't I? If I can find the swords. There you go, and there's what the swords look like. So that's probably my favourite pip deck, is this particular one. I don't think I've got any more. So I do love the illustrated, but I don't mind pip decks either. I think pip decks really enhance your intuition, because you're really having to not just look at the image to try and to gain some sort of perspective on what the card is telling you, but you've really, I don't know, just sort of makes your intuitive juices flow, I think, when you're using a pip deck. So I don't really mind either. The next question was, how do you feel about keywords on deck? I really don't like them at all. I think it really stifles your intuition when there's a keyword on it. However, in saying that, when it comes to oracle decks, I don't really mind if they do have a keyword on it, actually. So for those of you who know, who follow my channel again, you do know that I do spirit messages, and I usually use the Oracle of Visions by Ciro Machete, which is absolutely fantastic. However, I was recently gifted the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck and inner guidebook. I've actually, it's just some of them because they're huge. I've actually edged it. Now this particular one I use for spirit messages, and as you can see, it's got one word on there, like anticipation. So I don't mind when there's a keyword on a deck, something like this on oracle decks. I really, really don't mind. I don't find that it stifles my intuition when I use these. So when I do spirit messages, I've done one video so far using these particular cards. I actually found that the keyword actually helped bring across the spirit's message. So actually, this is just doing this again is making me want to do another video. So I find these keywords to be quite good. So when it comes to an oracle deck, I don't really mind if there are keywords on it. But when it comes to a tarot deck, I hate it, because to me it stifles your intuition, because you read the keyword and immediately you are trying to fit in the images that you see on that card with the keywords. So I don't really find that it's very, very helpful at all. And about borders, I suppose the biggest border that I absolutely hate, and you'll see it here, this is the Voyager Tarot. So I got rid of it. I absolutely hated the borders. I think they really detracted from the deck. As soon as I got rid of the borders, these images just popped, and I edged it in a beautiful royal blue. And as you can see, the images, they just scream out to me when I read with this deck. You know, they're just stunning. So I thought the borders really detracted from the images. They were just too big. You know, I don't know why he put such huge, horrible beige coloured borders on it. Now, when it's a very thin, very thin white border or something that actually enhances the image, I've got no problems whatsoever. I mean, as you all know, on the Voyager one, not the Voyager, sorry, the England Alchemy one, you can see it's got very intricate borders around there, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. It all depends on the border. When the huge ones, like the one that I just showed you, I think they're hideous, and it really detracts from the beauty of the actual image. So it depends on how the border is done. If it enhances the actual image around it, I've got no problem. But if it detracts from it, well, then I'll get rid of it. What makes you decide to modify a deck? I've just answered that question. Basically, if I feel it's detracting from the images that are on the card, well, then I will get rid of the borders. What cardstock is your favourite? Anything that doesn't chip, warp, flake, or, and stands up to a lot of wear and tear. So my oldest deck that I've had would be, despite Titania's Fortune cards, the Lenormand cards, which the cardstock is crap. So if you ever buy that deck, make sure you put some clear contact on both sides, because it's just like paper. I've got the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. I've got the first edition, and that is absolutely in stunning condition. Actually, I should go and grab it. I'll just go and grab it. So the only thing I've done with this is the first edition. That's the back. All I've done is edged it in black. That's all it needed. And this is probably the longest deck that I've had. This is the very first deck that I bought for myself when I got my very first payment for reading the tarot professionally, and I shouted myself this deck, and I also got one of their messenger bags. This deck, look at it. It looks like it's brand new, and I can't. Does it actually say when it was? I've got a little book sitting in the. See when it was published, 2007. 2007, and look at it. It's still like it's brand new. It's absolutely beautiful. So this cardstock is like butter. It's so nice. So this is really anything that stands up to wear and tear. There's nothing worse. Like I brought the Line Strider Tarot, and the very first time I took it out of its box and shuffled it, it chipped and it flaked. So I really hate that. So any stock, I don't really mind what it is, as long as it stands up to shuffling and doing what you do with a tarot deck. So the next category is buying and backing decks. So when you go to look for new decks you may want to buy. So what I used to do, I used to go onto Eclectic Tarot, which is no longer an active forum on it anymore. I was a member on there since 2004, so I used to go there, and they always had the images, and I had reviews of people who worked with the decks, and it's actually fantastic. Now they're supposed to keep up with that side of things, but it's not like what it was. So I used to do that. What I basically do now is I go and look at Kelly from the Truth and Stories YouTube channel, because this is actually how I actually got in to tarot on YouTube, is when I was searching for some images on a deck that I couldn't find on the Eclectic Tarot forum, and one of her videos came up, and that opened me up to a whole world of TarotTube. I couldn't believe it. So whenever I really want to look at buying a deck, I'll go to her channel, because it's very, very in-depth. She touches on absolutely everything that you'd want to know on a tarot deck. But be warned, if you're hungry, make sure you pack a lunch or a dinner in some cases, because she does ramble a lot. But you really get to know the deck by looking through one of her videos. So I look on there. As for buying it, here in Australia, the postage here is sometimes as much and sometimes even more than the actual deck itself. So I usually look for places that will include free delivery, like a Book Depository, although I haven't bought from them for a while, because sometimes it can take 2 months to get here. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I remember when I was going away to Bali, so this was, I think, last year now, I was having a couple of decks that were going to get delivered to me, and I got them sent to Nina's address so they wouldn't be sitting in my post box. She got them so much quicker than I do. I'm not in a really, 2 Rocks, I'm about an hour's drive away from Nina, so it's not that far. But the delivery times here is a big difference compared to where she is, because she's more in the, in an active suburb. So, but they were taking even longer now to get, and this is before the COVID even happened, so there was no real excuse. So I used to go to the book depository. I found their prices have gone more pricey. I think the last couple of decks I actually brought were from Amazon, which was very, very surprising. And the delivery was only $3. I don't mind paying, $3, $4, probably $10 at the most for delivery. But when it's as much as a deck, that really, really gets my back up. So, yeah, I'm very picky. It's really, really hard to find a deck to. I'm just turning off the sound of my of my mobile, because I know it'll go off. So I'm very, very picky. It's hard here for us in Australia. I mean, I see so many videos where you guys in America, they order a deck from Amazon, it's there that same day or the next day. Well, we don't have that luxury. You're always waiting at least 2 weeks before you get a delivery. But I was very surprised the last deck that I bought was about a week. It took them to deliver it to me, and I was absolutely thrilled. So I'm starting to look at Amazon now. But it's hard here in Australia because the postage costs are absolutely astronomical. They truly, truly are. The next question was, what has been your best and worst Kickstarter crowdfunding experience? I don't do Kickstarter or crowdfunding. I've had too many horror stories, and the thing is, people pay a lot of money for them, and then they get picked up by a bigger publishing company, and then you can buy the deck at so much cheaper, and you get it before the people who actually back the deck or Kickstarter. And I've read so many things about that. And often when people do get these decks, the quality is really crap. From the ones that I've found anyway, or heard about, they're not all that thrilled with all the money they've put out to it. They don't get their money's worth. So I don't do any backing whatsoever. I figure if there's a deck that I like and it comes out and the publisher picks it up, then I might buy it. But otherwise, no. So I just don't do it. How do you decide what decks you want to buy or back? Well, as I said, I don't back any. Decks I want to buy, they really got to call out for me. I have to say, I haven't brought a deck. I think I brought one this year. I've really culled down some of my collection. I'm using the decks that I've got, and I seem to be really attracted now to decks that I used to have. From years ago, like the Bohemian Gothic, Titania's Fortune cards, the Druid's Animal and Plant Oracle, I've had for over 17 years. I've seemed to be going back to the decks that first called out to me when I first started to read the tarot about, 20, I think I've been reading around 28 years. I'm not 100% sure now, but yeah. So I've seemed to be pulled back to decks that I first started to work with. It was kind of weird. So again, how much is too much to spend on a deck? For me, my limit is about $50, purely because of the postage costs, because you've got to add postage on top of that. But I limit myself to $50. Anything over $50, I think is too much. And, let's face it, they are all bits of paper. So you have to be very, very careful, what you get. Do you have deal breaker cards that have to feel right to you to pull the trigger on a deck, and what are they? I don't have any deal breaker cards. I often, buy a deck and there might be some images that actually there is a deck that I've got. Oh, I can't think what it's called now. And there was a real ugly image in there. What was that deck called? I've lost it now anyway. But the thing is with cards that sort of trigger you or you don't like, if you read professionally, that card can have a profound effect and meaning for someone that you do a reading for. So I always keep them. Even if they don't gel with me, I know that somewhere down the track that card's going to have a very, very special meaning for somebody that I read for. So I never ever let myself be put off by a few cards in the deck. I mean, if it's 77 cards out of 78, of course I'm not going to buy the bloody thing. But if it's, I don't care if it's a few cards, because I've had that happen to me before. Reading professionally, that particular card has a very special meaning that I pick up on when I'm reading for them. So I will never ever have deal breaker cards. That just doesn't come into the equation for me. So the next category is the reading style. And the first question is, do you have a daily practice, tarot practice? If not, when do you read for yourself? So when I first started reading, I was going through a marriage breakup. So I used to read every single day, and I would read like, sometimes half a dozen times a day. Now, I'm lucky if I probably read for myself, I don't know. I just don't really. I've been lucky. I've done it 6 times this year. I'm just don't read for myself anymore. I'm trying to actually get back into it by just pulling a few cards, shuffling some of my decks, pulling a few cards. But the reason I don't is because I don't have an outside job. So my days, day to day, are pretty much exactly the same. Up at 4:30, make breakfast for my husband, get him off to work, go for a walk, have a shower, have my breakfast, do some readings, do some videos, it just pretty much my days are like the same day to day. So there's nothing for me to read on. So if I'm going to read and pull a card for the energy of the day, it doesn't really gel because all my days are the same. So I stopped reading for myself when I became happy. However, when I was miserable, I used to read every single day, like I said, half a dozen times, sometimes even more. So now I really just don't read for myself anymore, but I'm trying to get back into it. I'm just trying to, shuffle the cards and see if anything comes up to me, but yeah, I just don't. And what's my go-to shuffle site is just over the hand. I am the most worst shuffler that you have ever seen, and hence I will never show myself shuffling on my YouTube videos because it's disgusting. But how I read is when I shuffle is when a card pops up. So I'll be shuffling because I've got this little deck here, so I'll be shuffling a deck just very slowly, hand over hand, and then see how, this particular card stuck up, and then that'll be the card. What do we got here? Knight of Pentacles, and that even proves how, how slow I am. I'm so steady when it comes to shuffling. And then how do you choose which deck you're going to work with? So if I move back from my screen, these are all my decks up here, up the shelf there. And I don't know, and that little cupboard that you can see in the mirror is where all my decks that are in bags are. But the ones that are in bags, I don't use as much. So that's why they're in that cupboard. But the ones on the shelf I do, and I just stand there, and as soon as my eye is drawn to a particular deck, that's the one I use. So I don't actually, excuse me, wake up and think, oh, I'm going to pull out my Hush Tarot and do a reading today. That's not how it works. I just have a look at the deck and whatever calls to me. And it's the same when I do readings for clients. Often when I say their name, a deck will come to mind almost instantaneously, and that's the deck that I'll use. So that's how I actually choose them. And do you purchase professional readings for yourselves? Never. Well, actually, this is how I actually got started in the tarot. When I was going up through my marriage breakup, I had a reading at a local market, and I was very, very poor back then. I didn't like the reading. I didn't feel like that she really connected with me or was answering my questions, and I thought, I'm going to buy my own deck. And that's what I did. I went out and I brought my own tarot deck, and I taught myself to read, and that was the only professional reading I've ever had. I never paid for professional readings because I just, that was a catalyst of what a bad tarot reader can be like. And I think what it was is what now when I'm in hindsight, she was very, very new, so she was getting the feel of it. But you shouldn't be reading professionally if you're that new and that you're not really, you're not answering your clients' questions, you're not seeing anything. So that's what actually made me go out and buy a tarot deck and started and taught myself to read, because for one, I couldn't afford to keep buying readings, and I was so disappointed with that one. And even back then I learned to trust myself. So yeah, I just don't do it. The other one is, do you use tarot for anything other than divination? Well, of course I do it for spirit messages. So I use the tarot for spirit messages. Like I said, I just shuffle a card. Shuffle a card. That made sense, didn't it? So shuffle a deck. So like I've got this particular deck here, the Inner Wisdom. Oh, I'll just put all that down because I don't use the book in that. So basically I just do exactly what I just did with that particular one. I just what I do is one's popped up straight away, makes me think there's a message, so I didn't even get to say the little spiel. But what I usually do is invite the goddess and gods, my angels and guides, into this reading for a message who would like to step forward, who has a message to a loved one. That's what I say. And even though I'm pagan and I'm a witch, I invite the angels in because I do believe that angels still do work with me lately, probably this year. I've started with that. And also because other people are great believers in angels, and I like to invite their, when I do a reading professionally, I invite theirs in as well, add that as well, invite their goddess and gods, angels and guides to get together with mine to help me give a true and accurate reading. So this particular one is, I've had this one before actually. She was my very last spirit message, is freshness there. It's kind of interesting that she goes, all I got last time I looked at this card was that she loved cooking. That, of course, now even though she looks African, she has the afro and everything like that, it doesn't necessarily mean when I look at this card again that I'm going to get the same vibe for this particular card. It will be the same spirit. But I think that this is the same spirit because I'm still seeing the same thing, and I see her in a kitchen with white and very pale yellow checkerboard floor, but it's like I'm looking through a doorway, and the doorway is a very pale yellow stone. So I'm still, that's all I get from her, so I still think it's the same one. So it's this love of cooking that has come through. So I'm going to go into a spirit message, but that's all that I do, is I just pull a card and read it and listen to the visions that I get, the words, the smells, the tastes, whatever it is that comes up. So that's what I do. So now we come to reading for clients. How did you know when you're ready to read for clients? It's a very interesting question. And I'm actually going to put a card up because I have got a whole series on tarot tips and tricks. And I think the way you know is when you don't look at books anymore. If I'm going to give you the biggest tip is don't use books when it comes to teaching yourself the tarot. Truly, truly don't. So with the Eclectic Tarot Forum, one of the big things we used to get into groups, and that'd be like a spread that of the week, and we would get randomly chosen to partner up with someone, and we would read for each other. So it never entered my mind that you could not read for someone who lived halfway across the world, because the people that I interacted with the most, I think I probably had 2 or 3 people from Australia. All of them were from America, France, all over the world. So and that's how I read. I only read by email purely because I'm deaf, so I wear 2 hearing aids, and to try and work in an environment where there's background noise, it's just a no-go for me. So I've always read online. I do all my readings online. That's just the way that I am. And so that barrier wasn't there about reading for someone who wasn't in front of me. And when I started to read actually professionally would be 5, nearly 6 years ago. I worked for a company called Future Me. Now he actually advertised on the Eclectic Tarot. He was after some readers, and how you got to do that, you had to read for 5 people and they would give the feedback, and if you pass that then you get to go on there. So I've been on there, I think I'm coming up to 6 years next year. I've been reading professionally online, besides my own website as well, and reading for, for family sort of things. So really, I suppose to know when you're ready is when you're comfortable, when you don't have to look at the books, when you can read for anything and anybody without any hesitation whatsoever. I mean, really, this is a time when you've got to trust your own intuition when it comes to reading professionally. Do you feel right? Are you hesitant still? Do you still look at books? Do you have trouble putting the cards all together? Do you feel like that you read them each individually, but then you can't put it together into a story? There's lots and lots of different aspects. That could be a whole new video in one, but I think you know when you're ready. And I felt like I was ready, and I thought I'd give it a go, and it's been fantastic. So, do you do anything special to set up for a client reading or for yourself? No, not at all. As soon as the deck comes into mind, I sit down, I shuffle it, I lay out the cards on my desk here where I read, because this is my room, and I just start typing away. So I don't have anything other than that little prayer that I say to invite everyone in who wants to, their spirit guides to come together with mine, so I can give them a true and accurate reading. But I've only started doing that in the last probably 4 years. I never even used to do that. I used to just shuffle and lay out the cards. So I think it made a difference in inviting in, the different deities into my reading as well. I think it was more, how can I say it? I think it was more poignant doing that. I think it did help. So, and then do you let your client handle your cards? Do you shuffle and ask them to draw and cut? When I have done face-to-face reading, I've got no problem whatsoever. What I do is I give them the deck, I tell them to shuffle it thinking of their questions, and then I lay out the spread and read them. So I don't care about other people touching my decks, not whatsoever. And then it's got, are there any questions you would refuse to answer for a client? Health matters. I don't like reading on health matters. I really actually loathe love relationship readings, and I must get that vibe pretty good. I very rarely get relationship readings for people buy relationship readings at all. Absolutely loathe them. But the reason I do, I don't like them, is because I've had like one lady, shouldn't I have an affair with my neighbour? Them sort of things I absolutely hate. Is my husband cheating? My wife cheating on me? If you're asking those questions, you already know something's wrong in your relationship. So, I don't like them type of reading. So I refuse to read on health. I don't like that type of relationship. If it's a true relationship, like we've been struggling since we've been trying for a child or something like that, I've got no problems with that because I truly want help. But when it comes to mental health or health readings, no. And the old, when will I die? I would not answer questions like that at all. I like to, when I read for clients, I want to help them. I don't want them to, how do I say it? I don't want to answer questions that aren't going to help them spiritually or help them to move on with their life or to see what's happened. I like to, when I do a reading, I like to go a little bit into the background of how things happen to where they are at, the choices that they've made and things like that. So, but anything to do with health I won't read. But in saying that, sometimes health issues will actually come up, and you have to be careful. So if someone's asking me about their health, I would rephrase the question to say, how can I improve my health, or something like that. But sometimes they do come up, but you've got to be very, very careful how you answer them. And then the last question was, do you have any advice for people who want to start reading professionally? Don't think you're going to become a millionaire when you read professionally. There's not much money at all in reading professionally. I know it all sounds very glamorous, and you've got people like Biddy Tarot saying you can earn thousands and thousands of dollars, blah blah blah, and it's a load of crap. Unless you are really, I just highly doubt anybody who says that they earn a lot of money reading the tarot. It can, what I get reading professionally, I use to purchase more decks when I feel like purchasing decks, or things that I don't, because I don't, we're a one income family, so whatever I earn, my husband says, you can keep it for yourself, and I use that usually to buy more crystals or my tarot decks, or, things of that nature. Or if we're a little bit tight, 1 month, I'll transfer it over to his account. So really, if you start reading tarot to earn money, don't do it. But if you want to read professionally to generally help other people, then do it. Because basically that's it. Being a tarot reader is like being a counsellor, okay? The things that people have told me over the years and have asked me, nothing really shocks me anymore. But people go through some really dark, deep times, and they really want somebody to look at it from a different perspective, okay? So, it's, you have to really want to help people. And I'm not a people person. I'm a hermit. I stay at home all the time, so there's an effort to get me out of the house. But when it comes to helping people move on in certain matters in their life, I really try my hardest to help people, because when I was at my darkest point of time going through my marriage breakup, because it was an abusive marriage, so when I was going through all that crap, these cards were my best friends. So if someone purchases a reading off me, I try and give them the advice that a best unbiased best friend would give, because friends will give you advice, but of course, being friends, they're just going to see your side and stick up for you. When you buy a tarot reading, It's because you want an unbiased opinion. And I think if you want to start to read professionally, you're going to have to make sure that you don't get all riled up with whatever they are they're asking you. You have to keep that professional detachment and give an unbiased opinion. And they also say too, when you're reading professionally, that you shouldn't say things that have happened to you. And I'm not going to say, and I think that's untrue, because if somebody, particularly now with mental health being more outspoken, those of you who don't know, my youngest daughter is bipolar, and she's quite happy with me saying that, because she feels that the more people know about it, the more help there'll be out there for people who suffer from it. So I can really pick up when I do a reading on people who are struggling with mental illness, or who have got somebody in their life that is struggling with it. And I will tell them things, personal things that have happened to me on this journey. And it helps them. And I can't tell you how many times they write back and said, I'm so glad that you told me your story. It really helped me. So, I don't mean that you have to do this great big spiel of step by step of what happened, but you can put yourself in their shoes more easily. You can reveal things, personal things about you, and it does help with your readings, and it will help the other person. But of course, you're going to have to be very specific and particular with how you do it, because each reading you might get, like there's this particular reading that I do on my website. It's actually an Emerald Lotus divination spread. I think it's soul work and the repeating lesson, and a lot of the type of deep questions that come up with that. It's really hard not to say anything personal in it, but you have to. I'm sort of rambling on here, but I just wanted to get it across that it doesn't hurt to put in your own personal experiences in your readings, as long as it's not, you're naming names, dates, places, that type of thing. But you can reveal a bit about yourself when you do a reading, because it makes it more personal, and you come together spiritually. So, you get not only emotionally in your support, but you come together spiritually. Because I believe that person buys that particular reading from you at that particular point in their life, and that even in the particular point in my life, where I could see where they are at, because I was in that situation a few years back, a few months, whatever, and so I know exactly what they're going through. So it does not hurt to add personal stories into your readings, but you just have to be careful on how you go about it. I suppose that's what the best way to say it. So I know that everyone used to say, don't put your own personal experiences in your reading, but in my case, I think it's helped. I think it has helped, and I know it's helped because clients have told me that helped. So there you go. So that's this long VR, but I think it was a good one. It asked some good questions about why you do the things that you do. So I hope you've all enjoyed. Until next time, this is Tracy.